He's the director of the National Economic Council and the White House Economic Advisor, Larry Kudlow, good friend of mine for a very long time. Larry, I love these segments because we can talk the economy. That's where we come from. That's where I come from, too. I want to talk a little bit about this relief package. You know, a lot of people are saying, is it coming? Is it not coming? My concern is twofold, Larry. If it does come, if it's $500 billion or $1 trillion, are we not supporting people who may go back to work but would rather not work and just take a check?
Well, things like unemployment assistance, you know, the president put out an executive order which provided federal assistance, $300 a week, and then the states can throw in $100, so it would be $400. That's down from the original number, which many people, including us, thought was a disincentive to work. I think that's what you're driving at. So this seems to be a pretty generous compromise position, which at this stage will not damage the working class. I mean, don't forget, the president's proposed a major payroll tax deferral, which is very important. That's not only an incentive for people who've been working through this pandemic, 147 million some odd people, but also an incentive to go back to work, to get essentially, I guess, an 11% pay raise. That's an after-tax wage increase, which is great stuff. And we think we're going to protect them in this fashion. We'll see how the stimulus talks go. We'd like to renew the business loans, the small business loans. I think there's a lot of talk about that. Some money for school openings. I think that's very, very important. And the main thing right now is not only is the virus numbers coming down, but the economy is producing tremendous numbers across the board. It's a self-sustaining V-shaped recovery.
No doubt, it's a V-shaped. If you just look at a stock chart, and you'll see that. But Larry, what happens if, you know, I got to assume we can't keep doing this forever, right? So at some point, whether it's $1 trillion now or $500 billion or whatever the numbers, eventually you're going to stop juicing the consumer with cash. You know, are we going to look at consumer spending dropping? Is that going to be perceived as a negative economic indicator? And do we risk another, you know, maybe test of the low?
No, I don't think so. I mean, as I say, I think this is a recovery that's self-sustaining. You've got housing booms, retail booms, automobile booms, tremendous numbers coming out of housing and autos. Manufacturing is very strong. There are no inventories to satisfy demand, Eric. So that's going to generate this self-sustaining recovery. And we'll let it down gradually in terms of fiscal policy. Monetary policy stays very loose and highly stimulative, so that will continue. And don't forget, the president will be talking more and more. He's got a whole series of tax cuts for the middle class, tax cuts for investment, the payroll tax cut, and a whole new series of deregulatory action, which will provide a lot of torque to the economy, reward success, don't punish it, provide new incentives. That's what a free economy is about. And he's drawn a very strong red line comparing with, let's say, the other team.
Well, speaking of the other team, Pelosi et al., they decided that your $500 billion relief package wasn't enough, so they voted it down. My mama told me if someone is going to give you money but you don't think it's enough, take the money and fight for the rest later. Your thoughts on Pelosi's strategy?
Yeah, well, I think your mother's right. I think we all agree with her. It was a good offer of $500 billion. It would have helped. Like I say, it would have repurposed and added this. The small business lending, I think, is a constructive part. They can use some more help to year end. Help for the school openings, Eric. Is there anything more important than getting the kids back to school, which, by the way, helps the parents enormously in terms of their work effort? So jobs and kids, two big themes on our part. I don't know why you would want to reject that. Now, the president has said, you know, he would like to see some direct payments. All right, and Chief Meadows said that this morning. So the negotiations are continuing, and we will see. They also want to keep the government open to year end with a clean continuing resolution. That's part of the mix. So we'll see how that shakes out.
You know, Larry, we had Chief of Staff Meadows on a couple of weeks ago, and he said, and he broke some news. He said if Pelosi doesn't get, if you can't get a deal with Pelosi, they were considering executive action. Do you have any more on that? Meaning, so my audience understands, if they can't get a deal in Congress, the president would do an executive order to put some money back into people's pockets. Your thoughts? Have you heard that, and where would that stand?
Yes, nothing new. I mean, we have a bunch of executive orders that the president released a few weeks ago because the Congress wouldn't move, and that include the payroll tax deferral, the unemployment assistance, eviction moratorium, and continued moratorium on student loan payments with a zero interest rate. So those were important measures. Those are still in place. We've issued rules on every one of them, and particularly on the payroll tax cut, he will forgive any future payments. So that's our position. If the Congress wants to lock that in, that would be fine, but so far they haven't done it.
Larry, about a minute or so left, and in your thoughts, it strikes me as odd that President Trump would get involved in this TikTok back and forth, and whether or not Oracle was going to be the player, or Microsoft, and what for. What's behind all that?
Well, of course, TikTok is a big app, and a lot of people use it. But from our standpoint, we're not picking winners and losers. The bids have come in. Right now, it's Oracle. We are carefully examining their bid. 2 points, Eric. Security. There has to be security with respect to the threat that communist government might get hold of a lot of important personal information, or worse. And the second one is ownership. We expected it to become an Americanized company that would create a lot of jobs and tax revenues here at home. I can't comment on it. It's under very tough review. It's a confidential process, but it will be moving fairly rapidly.
Larry Kudlow, everybody. Thank you, Larry. Appreciate your time again.
Thanks, Eric. Take care.
Talk to you soon.